Welcome back to another exciting day of Ancient Greek, where yesterday we began learning capital Greek letters. Can you remember how to write? Oh, actually, before we review, let's learn the new thing for today. We're going to learn how to write the name David. David, also a very important name in the New Testament. The father of Jesus. Well, the parent father. Whatever, anyway, there's a lot of stuff to be said about the topic, but, David, D-A-V-I-D. Now, in Greek, the D is delta, and then alpha. The V, there is no V in ancient Greek. We use the letter B instead. So D-A-B, or delta, alpha, beta, iota, it's kind of a silly looking iota, and delta again. David, something like that, David. And the iota here has an accent above it. The accent is not the same as a dotted I. We do not dot I's in ancient Greek. Instead, we put an accent here, and so instead of saying like David, where the emphasis is above the A, David, we're going to say David. So we put the accent above the I. And so the stressed syllable is this vid part, David. Or I believe the ancient vowel would have sounded something more like E, David. David. Okay, now the capital letters here. The first one we can capitalize is the capital delta here. And this is going to look pretty much like a triangle. Ta-da! And mine here might be a little tall, so I'm going to try making it a little wider, just so it's nice and accurate. Like that. 3 straight lines, triangle. Capital delta. Okay, and then alpha, capital alpha, looks like our English A, which we learned, no, we didn't do this yesterday, I'm sorry. And so there's capital alpha. Repeat after me as I'm writing them. So delta, alpha, and then the V becomes a capital beta. And this is going to be a straight line up, and then 2 loops, just like our capital B in English. But be sure not to do something like this, where one is smaller than the other. See how the top half is smaller than the bottom half? It's important that they're the equal size. The Greek alphabet is very kind of blocky and symmetrical. So delta, alpha, beta, moving along easily so far here. D-A, beta. And then the iota we learned yesterday. D-A, or delta, alpha, beta, iota, and then delta again. David. And I suppose if you wanted to, you could put an accent above the I there as well, because it's not a dotted I. And then we would know that it's David instead of David. And that is how you spell David in ancient Greek. So now I'm going to get rid of it. And can you write David in capital ancient Greek letters? Your turn. Go ahead. Delta, alpha, beta, nice and even, then iota, and delta. David. Okay, now cover it up and write it one more time just to make sure you've got it. David. Delta. Alpha. Beta. Notice how on my beta, these little knobs hang off the back like that, instead of stopping right at the end of the letter, or at that first line. Iota, with the little notches, like yesterday, and delta. Now, as far as drawing the delta goes, it would also be acceptable to draw this line at the bottom first, and then go up, and then go down. And then make sure they're all nice and aligned, like that. We don't have to draw this line, but they should generally be straight. And then, can you remember how to write the name for Jesus in ancient Greek? How do you say it? Iesu. And show me Iesu. Well, I guess you can't show me, but why don't you write it in capital letters? Iota. Eta. Sigma. And is this Omicron or Omega? Omicron, or Omicron. And then, what's the name of this letter? This is capital Upsilon. Not to be confused with epsilon. Oops, hold on. Which is this. Epsilon, upsilon, or capital epsilon being just a large capital E. But we haven't done that yet, so don't worry about that, but just remember it's upsilon in Iesu and not epsilon. Okay, and if you got all that, we're done for today. Make sure you can write David or David from memory. And tomorrow we'll learn how to say that Jesus is the son of David. Okay, thanks. Good job.